Britain's deadliest prisoners. That's what I'm going to be talking about in this episode, people, and it's going to be David Bieber. Now, a lot of you who have been watching my channel for a number of years will be familiar with the name because I have done videos on David Bieber previously, because I have been asked on a number of occasions, more so when the HMP Franklin documentary came out, which I was in. Some people were messaging us saying, who is the most dangerous prisoner or the most craziest prisoner you've ever met? And it was none other than David Bieber. He is an absolute lunatic. And when I talk about his crimes and what he's in for, you will see the reason why. But David Bieber, I met him in Franklin prison in the gym in 2008, and he was one of those people that you look at and you can just see he had like shark eyes. His eyes were just all black, there was no colour there. Absolute psychopath. So he was the craziest looking mofo. I'll try and keep the language down on this one, people. The craziest mother that I've ever met and ever seen. But David Bieber was serving a minimum term, life with a minimum term of 37 years when he fatally shot a copper down in Leeds in 2003. Now, I've took a few different articles and wrote them down and put them on into my own little shall we say, a biography that I've put together to get all the details and all the facts correct, because there's nothing worse than rehearsing a story for a video and then forgetting it. So I always have it in front of us on the computer. So David Bieber, born the 3rd of February 1996, also known under the alias Nathan Wayne Coleman, is an American murderer. Originally from Fort Myers, Florida, he fatally shot PC Ian Broadhurst and wounded PC Neil Roper while attempting to shoot PC James Banks on Boxing Day 2003 in Leeds, England, sparking a nationwide search before he was captured. He was actually given a whole life sentence after being found guilty of the murder in December 2004, and the trial judge recommended that he never be released. However, in 2008, this sentence was reduced to a minimum term of 37 years by the Court of Appeal, after which he could apply for parole. Now, a lot of people, including prisoners, were actually shocked when he took this to the appeal courts and actually won his appeal. And obviously the whole life term, which would have meant he would never be released from prison, which you would expect someone to receive for fatally shooting a copper and then trying to kill another two. If that happened now, in 2026, it would be life without parole. There would be no appeals getting won, shall we say. It would be a straight life without parole, no chance of appeal. But obviously back in 2008, he won it. But I bet you that judge in the appeal courts, when he found out that Bieber later got another life sentence for an attack on a screw, a prison officer inside of HMP Long Lartin, which I'll talk about a little bit later, that judge would have been disgusted with himself, shall we say, when he found out that Bieber tried. It was initially an attempted murder, but I will tell you about it a little bit later on. So Bieber is originally from Fort Myers, Florida, and after leaving school, he was briefly a US Marine, so he knows how to fight. He's trained to kill, before being discharged for going AWOL, absent without leave. Bieber became a drug dealer and bodybuilder, and on the 9th of February 1995, a fellow bodybuilder, Marcus Muller, was shot and killed in Fort Myers. Police arrested Bieber thinking he had hired a hitman, but later released him due to lack of evidence. In November 1995, Bieber's former girlfriend Michelle Marsh was attacked by the same gunman who had attacked Muller. All 4 shots missed. Bieber fled the state, assuming the identity of Nathan Wayne Coleman by stealing the identity of a deceased child and escaping the country in 1996. Bieber entered the UK on the 26th of September 1996 through the port of Ramsgate using a false passport. He was given a 6-month visa, but it was extended until his marriage to Denise Horsley in Kendal. In 1998, Bieber arrived in Yorkshire, where he worked as a nightclub doorman. He also acquired an arsenal of illegal firearms. In 2001, his wife petitioned for divorce. And on the 26th of December 2003, on the border between Gipton and Oakwood areas of Leeds, unarmed traffic policemen Ian Broadhurst and Neil Roper saw Bieber's stolen BMW car parked at the junction of Grange Park Avenue and Dib Lane, where Bieber had just been, in the adjacent post office. They identified the number plates as false and asked him to accompany them to the police car, where Bieber sat in the back seat. The officers did not attempt to search him or handcuff him. They became uneasy, however, and so called for backup. But I remember this case because obviously when they were hunting him, he was actually found up in Gateshead, not far from where I originally come from. So Roper then moved to handcuff Bieber, who faced an imprisonment for various offences in the UK and possible extradition to the US, drew a 9mm handgun and fired an initial 4 shots at the officers who tried to flee. Roper was hit twice in the shoulder and abdomen, but managed to get away. PC Broadhurst was shot once in the back and immobilised. PC James Banks, who had arrived as backup, escaped injury after a bullet hit his radio, which was very lucky for him. Bieber walked over to where PC Broadhurst was lying and fired a 5th shot into his head at point blank range. Now that is a stone cold killer. I remember the case because I've seen a few documentaries as well, and when they were doing the reconstruction of what happened, he actually, like he's just said, he actually went up to him as he was on the floor, he pleaded, and he just went bang, point blank range. If he wanted to get away, there was no need for him to put the fatal bullet in his head. And a lot of lads that I was in prison with at the time, who were killers as well, had actually said there was no need for him to do that and go that far. The copper was fucking done in already, on his hands and knees begging, and he put one straight in his head. But he mustn't knew, if he get extradited to the US, he could possibly face a death penalty or whatever else comes about different cases. He would have been better off serving his time in a UK prison. So that is the reason I believe he's done it, and that is why he's went so far, because he's sticking in his head he doesn't want to go back to the US. He knows what the US prisons are like. The UK prisons are a lot easier and a lot more cushier than what the US prisons are. And who knows, he could have had a hit out on him in the US. That's why he's fled as well. But it was the first fatal shooting of an English police officer for over 8 years, preceded by that of PC Philip Walters of the Metropolitan Police, who was shot dead on the 18th of April 1995. After the shootings, Bieber escaped down Dib Lane and stole a car at gunpoint outside a bookmaker's further down the road. This caused some confusion in initial news reports of the shootings, which stated that the shooting itself happened outside the bookmakers. So following the shootings, West Yorkshire Police launched a nationwide search for Bieber, led by Detective Chief Superintendent Chris Gregg. On the 27th of December 2003, Bieber took a taxi journey in Bradford, and on the 28th of December, armed police raided Bieber's apartment in Leeds, and he obviously wasn't there. Bieber was arrested by armed police at the Royal Hotel in Dunstan Gateshead at 2:25 in the morning on the 31st of December, New Year's Eve. He had dyed his hair ginger. Under his bed he had a loaded pistol, which was later determined to be the weapon used in the shooting. So he had no chance. He took this to trial, believe it or not, but he had no chance of saying it wasn't him. He had the gun with him, along with around 300 rounds of ammunition. The next day he was charged with murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. The trial was held at Newcastle Crown Court and ended on the 2nd of December 2004. Bieber denied murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life, and possession of 200 9mm rounds found in a storage shed. It makes you think, like, why would you take something like this to trial when there's so much evidence against you? But he's probably thinking he's got nothing to lose, and he's probably trying to get away with the 2 attempted murders because he knew exactly what he would be facing, life without parole. So he's thinking, why not give it a shot? Plus, his legal team would have been saying, do not plead guilty, take it to court. The prosecution presented evidence from witnesses, identification of Bieber's voice and DNA evidence. Bieber's defence was that the culprit was his friend who looked like him, also from Florida, that committed the offences and had asked him to look after the murder weapon. Bieber said he could not name his friend for fear of reprisals. Well, not much of a defence, is it? No wonder he got a fucking guilty. Bieber was convicted on 1 count of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. The judge, Mr. Justice Moses, told Bieber he had shown no remorse or understanding of the brutality of his crime, and the aggravating feature in the case was that Bieber did not need to shoot PC Broadhurst through the head, noting, this is what the judge has said, you had already disabled him and he was defenceless, like what a lot of hardened criminals have actually said, and a lot of hardened prisoners and killers. What was the point? You could have escaped then, but you chose to wait and fire a second shot at point-blank range. To shoot and kill an officer in such circumstances, doing no more than trying to save us all, is an attack on us all. It must be acknowledged that he might have died as a result of your first shot, but you made certain of his death. Bieber was given 3 life sentences. The judge recommended he should never be released, making him only the 25th person in British legal history to be recommended for lifelong imprisonment. Well, there's been 70-odd people sentenced to life without parole now, so I don't think that is right in one of the articles, but I will research that, people. But there is over 70 people that has been given life without parole up until now, 2026. Should he be released, the state of Florida, where he faces charges relating to the murder of Marcus Muller and the attempted murder of his former girlfriend Marsh in 1995, has said it would seek his extradition. On 24th of October 2006, the Court of Appeal rejected a bid from Bieber for his convictions to be overturned, but ruled he could appeal against the trial judge's recommendation that he should never be released. The Court of Appeal ruled that the whole life tariff was not in itself a violation of the provision of the European Convention on Human Rights against inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment. In February 2007, it was announced that Bieber's sentence appeal will be delayed due to the European Court of Human Rights review of that question. The ECHR ruled in January 2012 by a 4-3 majority held there was no such violation. Later in 2007, it was reported that Bieber was involved in an escape plot with 2 other prisoners. And that was obviously, it was in 2007, when I said at the beginning of the video 2008, I was in Franklin from 2006 till 2009. just over 3 years. So it was in 2007 when I met him. I did make a mistake, but it was in 2007 when Bieber was in, shall we say, he had himself a mobile device inside of prison. What he paid a fortune for, because them phones inside of Franklin prison at the time were going for fucking thousands and thousands, because there wasn't many in. You can imagine in 2007, there wasn't many phones in the prison. Bieber got his hands on one of them because he must have had a stash outside, and he was on the phone to his friend organising an escape. But guess what his friend had went and done? His friend was going along with him. He then went and he thought, right, Bieber's trying to escape. I'm going to give the phone to the News of the World, which is no longer a paper, but at the time, News of the World, I think it came out on a Sunday. Everyone used to read the News of the World because there was loads of cases in so similar to this. And Bieber's friend has sold the phone to the News of the World. His friend had turned around and said, I'm going to hand the phone to the person who was going to help you escape. The phone calls were all getting recorded. Bieber was saying, I want you to go and do a helicopter hire for the day, or not a helicopter hire, a helicopter ride for the day, where you can go and pay, I'm not sure how much it is, it was a couple £100, go and pay for a helicopter flight. So this is his plan. He's told the News of the World reporter, this is me plan, I want you to go and hire a helicopter for the day, fly across the prison yard when I'm on me exercise, chuck down the ladder, and if any of the screws try to drag us back or intervene, I want you to lay down the fire and start shooting the screws. And all of this was being recorded. Obviously, the News of the World went and handed it to the police. The police has went, told the prison. The prison has went and got him, along with Colin Gunn, and put them, I think it was HMP Woodhill, put them in the unit down there. And there was only them two on the unit, but that had nothing to do with Colin Gunn. He got dragged into it and had to spend years on a unit in striped banana escape suit because of Bieber. And Colin wasn't very happy with him because of it. And the two of them weren't speaking. And there was only them two on a unit together. So there was a lot of friction, as you can imagine. On the 23rd of July 2008, Bieber was told by the High Court that he would not have to serve a whole life term as originally recommended by the trial judge, but would still have to serve a minimum of 37 years before being considered for parole, meaning he is set to remain in prison until at least 2041, when he will be 75 years old. Paul McKeever, chairman of the Police Federation, described the ruling as the judiciary with blood on its hands. But they would have heard about that escape plot as well, because it says 2008, the escape was in 2007, or the escape plot. So whether or not they used that to try and keep him on the whole life term or not, I do not know, which you would have thought. But like I say, a lot of people were shocked when his whole life term was overturned and he was given a set tariff, 37-year minimum term. But Bieber was on the units for a very long time after this. He'd been shipped around the high security estates, and he ended up inside of HMP Long Lartin, where he received a second life term. So Bieber was serving the life term inside of HMP Long Lartin, and he launched a frenzied attack on a prison officer, stabbing her with a metal bar, and for that he was given a second life term. She was lucky to escape serious injury or even death, the court was told. The 56-year-old was convicted of wounding with intent and having an unauthorised weapon at a trial in June of that year. He was sentenced at Worcester Crown Court, having earlier been cleared of attempted murder. The former US Marine and bodybuilder used a potentially deadly homemade pronged iron bar to injure Miss Smith in the 10-second attack. He grabbed her around the neck with an arm and launched a frenzied attack, punching out at her face with the handhold of the weapon and trying repeatedly to stab her in the face. Judge Nicholas Cartwright said the attack left Miss Smith with a permanent psychological medical condition affecting her ability to carry out day-to-day activities and work. Bieber claimed the attack was aimed at winning a transfer back to HMP Belmarsh in London, and that HMP Long Lartin near Evesham in Worcestershire had cut his pain-killing medication. A reasonable enough excuse, isn't it, for trying to kill a prison officer? Because he didn't have his medication and he wanted to be removed prisons. Well, you're not going to get your wish if you're carrying out attacks on prison officers when the governors are the ones in charge of moving you and security. So they're not going to give you the move you wanted for attacking one of their own. So the victim, on Tuesday, I'm just reading an article that was put out on that time. I've got a few different things like I see in front of us. Judge Nicholas Cartwright told him the penalty for the unprovoked prison attack meant he would be eligible for release until he was in his 80s. So he was given a second life term with a minimum of 6 years added on to his already 37-year life sentence. So after serving the minimum term of 43 years, he would be eligible for parole, but he will be in his 80s. So I do not believe he will ever be released from prison. He will never get out of the high security estate because he is one of the most deadliest prisoners in the system back then and at present time. Because even though that was 18 years ago, when he got the whole life term overturned, he is still a dangerous prisoner that could attack anybody or attack a prison officer at any given moment. Now that was 9 years ago, so he's now in his 60s. But age is just a number, it doesn't count inside a prison. If you get older, it doesn't mean that your threat to officers or anybody else reduces. It only reduces when you leave in a body bag, because there's been a lot of prisoners in the 60s and there's been some in the 70s that have inflicted serious wounds on prison officers when they haven't gotten their own way. So David Bieber will remain one of the UK's most deadliest prisoners until he leaves, like I've said, in a body bag. David Bieber is one crazy mother effer. Like I said, I try to be careful on these videos now because when you swear and say certain words, the video flags up and it doesn't hit the algorithm and won't be shown to people who aren't subscribed to the channel. So I do try and keep me language down, and then when I'm talking about the bacons, the horrible prisoners, I do try my best not to call them the derogatory terms which they are. So I'm going to leave that one there for now, people, and let me know in the comment section if you are enjoying these type of videos, because there is any amount of Britain's deadliest prisoners which I am going to be covering, but do let us know if there is any that you want us to cover. There is a big list that I've got that I am going to get through, so stay tuned, people, and if you are still watching at this point, go down and double check and make sure that you subscribe to the channel, because a staggering 70% of viewers are still not subscribed, and it is free to subscribe. You don't pay anything, you just hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss another video, and remember, people, to comment, like and subscribe like I've just said. Take care, people, enjoy the rest of your day, but most importantly, stay safe.